The snow drifted across Riverside Park like quiet ghosts that January evening soft and slow, as though the sky itself was trying to comfort. The city with fragile white whispers and Ethan Ward, once a respected financial strategist, sat alone on a metal bench that had long since lost its warmth to winter. Grip, wondering how a man's entire life could unravel in a single brutal week. His coat was thick, tailored, impossibly expensive, yet none of it stopped the cold that pressed into him from the inside, the cold born not from winter, but from betrayal. His phone buzzed relentlessly, vibrating against his leg like a reminder of everything still chasing him, angry clients demanding explanations, lawyers trying to reach him about depositions, reporters clawing for a headline that would bury him further. And why wouldn't they? After all, the world believed he de-orchestrated the fraud that wiped out millions from an investment fund he had spent 8 years building, but it wasn't him. It had been his trusted partner, a man he had considered family, who siphoned the money in secret and disappeared overseas, leaving Ethan with shattered trust, a ruined name, and a city ready to crucify him. He stared at the giant holiday lights wrapped around the trees, glowing gold against the snow, and he tried to remember what hope used to feel like before the headlines, before the accusations, before he became a villain in everyone else's story. As he exhaled into the freezing air, watching his breath fade like everything else in his life, he wondered whether a person could truly come back from something like this, or whether some stains were too deep to ever wash off. He didn't hear the small crunching footsteps until a tiny hand in a red mitten tugged gently at his sleeve. Ethan blinked and looked down to find a little girl, maybe 6 years old, peering up at him from beneath the fluffiest purple earmuffs he had ever seen. Snowflakes clung to her long lashes, making her eyes look rounder, brighter, impossibly genuine. She clutched a blue lunchbox covered in dinosaur stickers, the kind that looked loved, well-traveled, and slightly dented at the corners. She didn't speak at first. She just observed him, her head tilted the way children do when trying to understand a puzzle adults don't know how to solve. And then, without any hesitation, she climbed onto the bench beside him, swinging her feet far above the snowy ground, and began opening her lunchbox with slow, careful fingers. Ethan's instinctive panic shot upward as he scanned the area for a parent, and found her standing a short distance away in a puffy white coat, watching calmly with a soft smile that made it clear she wasn't concerned. The girl dug through her lunchbox and pulled out half of a grilled cheese sandwich wrapped in foil, slightly squished but steaming faintly. She tore it in two with the careful precision of someone performing an important task, and held out one half toward Ethan without a word. He shook his head, confused, overwhelmed, but she pushed it closer, those bright eyes unwavering until he finally accepted it. They sat there together in silence, her chewing happily, him holding the sandwich he hadn't yet found the courage to eat. And then she spoke, her voice clear, bright, and startlingly warm in the frozen stillness. "You look like you need someone to sit with." Ethan didn't know why, but those simple words hit him harder than any headline, any betrayal, any courtroom interrogation. Something inside him cracked, but not painfully, more like something tightly bound had loosened, allowing him to breathe again. The girl introduced herself as Lila, proudly explaining that she was 6 3/4, and that grilled cheese was her favorite because cheese makes everything better. He found himself smiling for the first time in days. Her mother approached then, gently brushing snow from her hair, and introduced herself as Harper Lane. She apologized lightly for Leela's boldness, but her voice held no embarrassment, only kindness, the kind that comes without conditions. Ethan expected questions, suspicions, anything, but Harper simply sat on his other side, her presence quiet and grounding. She didn't treat him like a stranger to fear or a headline to judge, just a man sitting alone in the cold. Layla, having finished her half of the sandwich, scooted closer and leaned against Ethan's arm like she'd known him forever. Harper told him they came to the park every evening after school because Layla liked to tell the trees her day, and Ethan found himself chuckling softly despite the weight on his chest. The hours passed without him noticing, the snow falling steadily as the park lights glowed like tiny beacons of hope. Words spilled out of Ethan before he could stop them about the betrayal, the investigation, the unbearable pressure of being accused of something he didn't do, the shame of becoming a public spectacle. Harper listened, patient and present, never interrupting, never judging. She didn't tee off her cliches or shallow comfort, only the kind of quiet understanding that felt like a hand being extended to someone who had been drowning. Layla wrapped her little scarf around Ethan's arm at one point, announcing, "You look cold," even though she had barely enough scarf for herself. The gesture nearly broke him. When the cold grew sharper and Lila began to yawn, Harper invited Ethan gently, without pressure, to join them for dinner sometime. She scribbled her number on a small notepad and tucked it into his coat pocket, patting his arm the way one might reassure an old friend. Before leaving, Lila gave him a hug that smelled like crayons and hot chocolate and innocence, whispering, "My mommy says everyone has hard days. You'll have good ones again." And for the first time in months, Ethan believed it. Over the following weeks, Harper and Lila became small but steady lights in the darkness of Ethan's life-sending messages, inviting him to join them for cocoa at a cafe, checking in before court hearings. Their kindness didn't erase his problems, but it made them bearable. Months later, when new forensic evidence finally cleared Ethan's name and authorities issued a warrant for his former partner, the city apologized, his reputation was restored, and investors returned. But none of those victories meant as much as that snowy evening with the little girl and her mother. Ethan kept the foil from that grilled cheese sandwich tucked in his desk drawer, a reminder that sometimes the biggest acts of grace come from the smallest hands, and that one unexpected moment of kindness can redirect the entire course of a life. And whenever he walked past Riverside Park in winter, he always looked toward that bench, grateful for the night when a child with purple earmuffs reminded him that hope, like snow, falls quietly but changes everything it touches.